This is Meet the Author, and I'm your host, Tigner James. During the entire month of February, I will showcase individuals who have gifts that represent, uplift, and empower the community. These individuals provide a culturally relevant voice to encourage future generations. Today, I have a sister with superpowers who's joining me, and her name is Dr. Cindy Trimm. Known for being a revolutionary thinker, Dr. Trimm is an international sought-after thought leader. She's a best-selling author who has penned several books on empowerment. But her latest book, Unstoppable, Compete with Your Best Self and Win. This book is for individuals who want to know how to get unstuck in their lives, figure out how to be a winner for their personal journey. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the table today on Meet the Author, Dr. Cindy Trimm. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm on top of the world and still rising.
That is awesome. I love that. Before we get started, this is the book.
This is the book. You know, I got my copy too.
This is the book.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to make sure you stay tuned until the end. There is a special something that Dr. Trimm wants to offer to you. So you must stay around to find out what that special is. The first thing I noticed about this book, it is believable.
Mm-hmm.
It's relevant, and it in some cases it actually spoke to myself. And I'm sure that each person has different takeaways as they read the book. But overall, I thought it was a very realistic book. What made you decide to write this one?
I was looking back on my life. I'm spending the rest of my life mentoring the next generation of leaders and innovators. And I have a vision that this world is filled with dreamers and innovators who push humanity forward and who influence others to do the same. So that's my vision. And to be able to connect with people who may be one of those contributors, but maybe stuck in their life, stuck in fear, not knowing how to bring their visions to pass. And I look back on my life and ask myself the question, what did I really need when I was 17 and I had my dreams and visions and I concluded I needed a mentor? I could have done more. I've done a lot, but I could have done more in my life if I had that mentor. And because I couldn't touch the entire world, I decided to put myself forward to become a mentor to the millennials, the Z generation, the Alpha generation, and to be that mentor. And I wanted to give them the tools and the principles that I believed if I really had it, I could have done more. And I wrote this book to be a literary mentor for the next.
Wow, literary mentor. I like that. At what age did you finally realize or get that mentor? So, okay, it's time for me to get a mentor. And
from the age of 8. It's interesting because I always was surrounded by people that believed not only in my gifts, but my greatness. And they challenged me.
That's important.
And I felt that was a God gift to me, because a lot of people can say that. I think I would have benefited more if back in those days, they understood they were my mentor and actually brought me into the process of mentorship. I think mentorship is a process. It's different from coaching. Coaching is skills-based, but mentorship is character and capacity building, relationship that a person has with you as they connect or help you to connect with your superpower. They're able to take you to a place in yourself that you cannot go by yourself. And everybody wants to talk about telling their truth and living their truth. And when I listen to their stories, they're actually talking about their testimony. But having someone help you to connect with the truth about your identity, your relevance, your significance, your greatness. And each one of us, we know that we are. But because between the ages of 0 and 6, we've been socialized to be nice and be kind, and they literally snatched our voice from us so that we can conform into their
Mm.
image of what a good boy and a good girl looks like. And then we go to school and we're educated, and then we're out in the world and we're culturalized. So by the time the average person gets 18, they've lost their voice and they've lost the connection to what I call
Wow.
their superpower. And that's their identity and their authenticity and their purpose. And they've lost that, and they live as a poor copy of someone else's image of themselves and a quotation of someone else's estimation of who they are. And because we live in a world where other people define what greatness looks like, we've lost our ability to really connect with our greatness. So we live outside in rather than inside out. And this book is really designed to take you to a journey in yourself where you cannot go by yourself. So I'm only the mentor to a hero, and the world is looking for heroes. We are looking for the best and the brightest, the best doctors, the best lawyers. But how come you can't see yourself as
That's
being
big.
one of them?
Yeah.
And so this is what this book is all about: connecting with the next best version of yourself and taking yourself seriously.
You just touched on something that I say very similar to how you said it, but I love how you put the words together. Uh, we're all born with that innate ability, a superpower within, but it's usually stifled. How does a parent or a person be able to identify that in a young person at such an early age, in your opinion, to be able to help
I think most
hone that?
parents, I think most parents want you to live a better life than theirs, but
True.
their measuring rod is themselves and not this
Yes.
child.
Yes.
So we don't, the average parent doesn't take the time to figure out who this human being is. They come through you, but they don't belong to you. And when I discovered, Les Brown asked me a question: "Who are you?" I said,
Mm.
"I'm an empowerment specialist." He said, "Well, that's what you do." I said, "No, that's who I am." And we had this little debate, and he said, "Call me tomorrow and tell me who you are." So I was challenged. And I
Okay.
said, and the Lord spoke to me. And this is what he said. He said, "You are the greatest expression of my intelligence and genius, given as a gift to humanity in this time and in this generation." So when I went back, he said, "I gotta go. I gotta hang up. I gotta hang up because you just knocked the wind out of me." And that's who we all are. We are, as human beings, God's greatest expression of his intelligence and genius, given as a gift to humanity at this time. And the greatest thing that we can do for humanity is to know who we are and then get involved in the process that I call self-mastery. A lot of people want to talk about self-care, but how can you care for a self that you don't know? So to thy
Yes.
own self be true,
Yes.
in Shakespeare's, one of Shakespeare's plays, he has this character, Laertes, talking to his son, and he says, "You're going off to Europe, but out of everything that you can do," he says, "to thy own self be true."
Be true.
And
Yes.
this is what this book is about, is connecting to you and not being afraid of your greatness. A lot of times, because we're trained to be humble, we believe to say that we're good at something means that we're arrogant. And that's not true.
That's
I
not
wrote
true.
something
Yeah.
called in defense of arrogance, where we call arrogant people who know they're good at something, but they refuse to lie about it. And that's who we call arrogant. And so imagine if Tiger Woods said, "Oh, I'm not that good at, golf," and Venus and Serena said, "Oh, I'm not that good at tennis," or Michael Jackson said, "Oh, I'm not that good in entertainment," or Will Smith, "I'm not that good of an actor." We wouldn't have these goats, the greatest of all times. And you have to connect with that. You're not good at everything, but you're
Yes.
good at something, and you shouldn't lie about it. And it's not saying that. I believe humility is knowing where your gifts come from. That's what humility is. It's not this false thing where you walk around acting like you're not. Who's going to buy? I'm looking for the best lawyers and the best doctors. And when I interview, I said, well, are you good at what you do? And if they say to me, oh, I'm okay, I hang up the phone. I don't want you. But if a person can say, look, I'm the best, that's the person that I'm looking for. So I'm the best version of Cindy Trimm. There's nobody can be
Can
better than
compete with
me.
you. Yes.
Yeah, so I might as well be everything that God has commissioned to me. And that's where you connect with your superpower, where you live authentically. I'm good at connecting people with their greatness. I'm good at helping people to go from poverty to being a millionaire. I'm a millionaire maker. I'm good at that. I'm good at taking people who are high achievers and make them uncommon achiever. And I'll tell you the difference. The difference between a high achiever and an uncommon achiever is that they're both equally gifted, equally talented, equally brilliant. But the uncommon achiever acts in such a way that it is impossible for time to Photoshop them out of history. They're history makers. And so there's so many people that are gifted and talented, and they're Photoshopped out of history. And I believe that in this generation, we have history makers, and that's who I'm connected to, and that's who I mentor. I mentor high achievers, and I turn them into uncommon achievers.
Wow. You mentioned a favorite phrase of ours, superpowers, and we call it sisters with superpowers. What is Cindy's superpower?
My superpower is my knowledge of who God is in my life and through my life. And that's what I connect with. I'm not a fan of listening to other people's estimation of who I am. I'm not
Yes.
fond of that. And at a young age, I connected to, I call it the God whispers. And that's at 8 years old, I started my first business. And I've been a business owner ever since. I've owned lots of different companies, and I was trying to think, but real estate, restaurants, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, and they were all successful. My superpower is listening to the God whispers, and my relationship with God, I think, it is the key that broke me out of poverty. I grew up in abject poverty. We ran out of everything, including water. Imagine.
Yes. You mentioned that a little bit in the book. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You run out of everything. Imagine living in a house that is suitable probably for 2 people, but there's 8 of us living in that house. And when it rained outside, it rained inside. But I always tell people your pain point points you to something that is far greater than your circumstances. It points you to your potential. It points you to your passion. It points you to your gifts, your ability. I didn't know I was a business owner until poverty pointed me to my giftings. And this is why this book is important, because we're about to take you to a place in yourself that you cannot go by yourself to point out your superpower. Yeah. And your superpower lies in potential form. Potential to me is like taking seed, putting it in a wheelbarrow, wheeling it to a field and saying, I planted something great. It'll never grow. You got to dump it in the field. And the field is your mind. It's your mind. Your mind has to be cultivated. And I started reading books, biographies. My mother would put a book down, I'll pick it back up. And I read biographies, I read history books. And I said, one day I'm going to visit this place. And one day I'm going to visit that place. And I've discovered that most people are stuck because they suffer from possibility blindness. They can't see how things will change. So it doesn't change.
Right.
So once you change your thinking, once you change your thinking, I think you have to be exposed to information and people that is living the life that you can live. And once you get that exposure, it's only a matter of time. You just have to convince yourself that it's possible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you have to, because we become our own stumbling blocks.
Like I told somebody, we're in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
And I challenged myself at the beginning of the year. I had wrote down what I wanted to accomplish. I actually forgot about it. It was January 2021. I forgot about it, what I had written down. And I found this little piece of paper that I would have doubled my income. And that would be the proof of 2021 being successful. What people need to do is just write down what will make 2022 successful for you. What will make 2022 successful? Write it down and don't even think about how you're going to do it. So I said to myself, wrote it down. In 2022, I'm going to double my income. Forgotten I had written it, found it in September. And in September, I had already doubled my income. I didn't double it by doing something I was already doing. I had this idea to create this product, and I created the product. And the first offer of the product, I made $360,000. The second offer, I multiplied that $720,000, and I made that in 4 months. And in addition to that, my home increased its value 4 times. It quadrupled. So I ended 2021 because of a declaration I not only made, I wrote it down. It's the law of documentation. And this is how you should live your life. Write your vision down. We talk about bucket lists, but there are 12 buckets. That's a different book. That is Hello Tomorrow, chapter number 8. But we're talking about Unstoppable. So you've got to think for a change. And every choice that you make, every decision that you make has the power to change your destiny. And you can change your destiny one thought at a time, one action at a time. And this is what this book is all about. You've got the potential to be great, but you've got to have the courage to believe that you can do it. And you have resources called abilities. Each one of us have over 600 abilities. And ability turns into a skill through discipline and turns into a marketable commodity through consistency and repetition. So you have to ask your question, what one thing can I dedicate a half an hour every single day to refine that I can add value? And if you could find out what that one thing is, and if you could focus on mastering that one thing, just 30 minutes a day, at the end of 4 years, you will be considered amongst the best in the world, if not the best. And it only takes 4 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. When did you decide to start writing? I mean, because you've written several books.
I've written 75 books. I've been a writer all my life. I write everything. So I write my thoughts. I have ideas. I go to bed writing. I wake up writing. And then somehow it comes together and it becomes a book. So this was in making. Unstoppable was in making for 10 years. I had actually called it something else. And then in the midst of the pandemic, I decided, hey, how can I encourage people to take themselves seriously, to take their dreams out of layaway and go for it? And I decided, number one, write a book, and number two, implement what I wrote in the book. So I wrote this in 2021, published it. I'm giving it for free. All people have to do is pay, and that's the offer, pay shipping and handling. And I decided that I must then become the proof of what I'm writing. So that's what I did. I became the proof, and I shared with you my story. I become unstoppable in the midst of the pandemic. And if people understand that it's all about consent. So at 8, I took my consent away from poverty, and I didn't consent to be poor anymore. And so in the pandemic, people are losing jobs. I don't consent to that. They say there's an economic downturn. I don't consent to that. I really don't. I consent to success, prosperity, health, and guess what? Everything about my life lines up to it. Life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. So poverty was happening for me because it connected with a latent ability as an entrepreneur. It was given to me at birth, at conception.
So how did you, I receive everything you're saying. For that person who has that ability to start that business, has that idea, but they're constrained by whatever it is holding them back to being the greatness that they should be. What are 2 or 3 things that you say to help break that mind block?
Get rid of limitations. There's no limitations in this world except the one you construct in your mind. And when you dismantle it, there'll be no limitations. So for every excuse someone gives, there's someone who has done it.
True. Yeah.
So, secondly, you got to change your mentality about the world. We live in a world of abundance. There's no lack in the world. Therefore, everything will come to you once you make the demand. You got to just demand it. You did it when you were born. You came out of your mother's womb demanding, I can't speak, but whoever has that white milky stuff, that's a sign to take care of this pain in my belly, better get over here. If not, nobody in this house is going to sleep. So you were calling the shots. You were winning before you had eyes and legs and lungs and a brain. You won out of millions of other that could have possibly won and crossed the finish line in your mother's womb. You won. No arms, no legs, no fingers, no brain, and you won. And then at conception, you've been asking for what you wanted. You weren't considering your mom's comfort. You just grew. And so you've got to connect with what is naturally wired in you. God has hardwired that in you to get what you need, to get what you want, to succeed in life. So all we have to do is connect with that. We just have to believe. I am a gift to this world. So how does a gift show up? You are a gift to this world. How does a gift show up? A gift doesn't show up saying, I wonder if I'm a gift. No, it just shows up and it makes everybody happy. So that's how you show up. I'm a gift to this world. I'm God's highest expression of intelligence and brilliance in physical form. And so is every human being. And so if we can believe that, how does a person who is the highest expression of God's brilliance and intelligence show up? How do you show up? You don't show up asking permission. You don't show up dumbing down to blend in to fit in. You don't show up like that. You show up with confidence. I'm here as a problem solver. What problem do you need me to solve? Every job that I have ever had, they regretted me leaving. Regretted. Because I showed up as a problem solver. I was first one in, last one to leave, and I solved problems. I made myself indispensable.
Right.
I'll pay you any money to stay. I was indispensable because I knew I was there to solve problems. A lot of people say they don't pay me enough. You know.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
But you agreed. You agreed. When you signed the dotted line, you agreed to that salary. So if you believe that you deserve more, why don't you ask for more? And why don't you give so that you make yourself indispensable? I always say, don't overpromise and underdeliver. Overpromise and overdeliver.
Yes, that is so true within all walks of life. You know, it's always better to underpromise and overdeliver, and then they'll see how great you really are.
I say overpromise, overdeliver.
Overpromise, overdeliver.
The difference, a lot of times when we talk about discipline, self-discipline, it's a part of
Yes.
self-mastery, right? There's two ideas. Firstly, you have training and discipline. Training is what someone else gives you. Discipline is what you give yourself.
Yes.
So everything is from within. You've got to discipline your mind, discipline your spirit, discipline your attitude, and that is making a promise to excel your last performance and then doing it. That's what discipline is. How can I do this better?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a young sister out there now wanting to write a book. Why is it so important to have their story told?
Because each one of us have our perspective. And that's what you're doing. You're giving your perspective. And the world needs to hear it. I only give my perspective. I don't have all the story. I don't have all the secrets, but I do have my perspective. And I have the courage to present that to the world. We all have people that will pick up our frequency. People, not everybody is going to buy my book.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that buy it. And those are the
Exactly.
ones that I'm assigned to. So likewise with any author, any speaker, any podcaster, any YouTube influencer, there are people that are out there that have your same DNA and frequency, that need your voice, that need your perspective. And you approach writing a book exactly like that. You're not writing to everyone. You're writing to those that have your DNA.
Exactly. So with that being said, for that author, that writer, they feel stuck. You say that that's sometimes a good thing, to be feeling stuck.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? How
Well,
do you get unstuck?
It means that you've come to the end of a season. And it's time to, it's time to move on. But either you lack the tools, you lack the courage, you lack the faith in yourself. So I tell people the first thing that you do, you get started. How do you get started? You write a vision for your life or a bucket list. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? And there's 12 areas that you write it in. So you're not unstuck in all your life. It's unstuck in certain parts. Figure out which
Exactly.
part. That's number one. Number two, ritual. Get yourself a ritual, something that you do every day. Routine. Stick to a routine. What time do you get up? What time do you go to bed? When do you wash your clothes? When do you write? Stick to a routine. And then you've got to have rejuvenation. So you got to go to sleep at night. A lot of people are sitting up, sort of searching and surfing social media. Go to bed so that you could be refreshed.
Yes.
Go to bed in a routine way. And then even with rejuvenation, find a hobby, something that you do and you can do every single day that will bring joy to you. And then those that are writing, write something, a half an hour every single day, write every day. I write every day, write every day. And then being unstuck, if you're seriously unstuck, talk to a friend, talk to your friends about your dreams, what you want to do. Set a goal and let your friends hold you accountable for reaching that goal. And then do one thing a day towards realizing your dream. And you'll be unstuck before you know it.
Wow, I like that. What do you have a special writing technique for yourself when you write?
I write. I just write. I write by inspiration. Anything can spark inspiration.
Yes.
So when I get an inspiration, I write. I write on anything. I write on toilet paper, paper towel, whatever I can find. My phone, I record. Anything can spark inspiration at any time. Just be prepared to record that. And usually, you have these amazing, genius one-liners. Like my one-liner, your feet could never take you where your mind has never been. Those
I like
kinds
that.
of, people, one of my one-liners that I love is people can see your gift at the expense of your greatness. They're hoping you don't connect with your greatness. Because as long as you don't, they can use your gift. You know, those are the kinds of one-liners.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you? So you said, yeah, I heard you say you write it on toilet paper, whatever. So do you? How do you? Where do you store it? Do you go back and?
Yeah, on my laptop. I store it on my
Okay.
laptop. And what I've done is I have categories of topics.
Okay.
So I have about maybe 200 of them. And I might have an idea on goals, and I go to the goals category
Okay.
and I write my
Okay.
thoughts down, and eventually they become a book. So I just keep writing. They become a book, they become a message.
But it's always something it's going to be empowerment for someone. Someone at some time, it's going to be fruit of knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I have a model that I operate out of.
Okay.
It's called the core four. The first is self-mastery. The second is success skills. The third is service to humanity. And fourth is strategy. So that governs my thoughts. It's going to be in one of those four quadrants. And this book is written in those four quadrants. I'm going to talk to you about self-mastery, success, service to humanity, and the strategy. And what is powerful about strategies, and this is a book of strategies, Unstoppable is a book of strategies, is that a strategy is a written plan to get you from point A to point B without consideration of lack and limitations. So this is what strategy makes powerful strategy, and that's what makes you unstoppable. And this is what this book is all about, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you mentioned your core values. You list
Core four.
four core there. You had some core value words that you have at the end of chapter 2
Yes.
that really where you want the reader to just pick these words, pick 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
What's the intent? Well, once they grab those words and hone in on themselves, what's the goal for them to do?
The goal is to know these are your core values. So I believe in collaboration. I believe in respect. I believe in service to humanity. And so that informs how I show up in this world, my orientation to myself and my orientation to the world. That informs that. These are your non-negotiables. Put a gun to your head, you're going to have to shoot me because I'm not going to
This is me.
compromise.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not compromising in these areas. And, this is on page 53. Define your core values. Redefine your success. So your core values is connected to your success. Your core values can only empower you if you live them day in and day out. But if you haven't thought about your core values, I call this winning actions, because this book is about winning. And excuse me, that's my phone ringing.
That's all right.
But, I got all kinds of things going on. I've got work being done in my house. I got phone ringing. And I think a lot of us, we don't win in life because of broken focus.
Oh, that's so true.
So we've got to fight distractions. You got to do what you got to do in spite of distractions. I could have easily said, oh, someone's right outside this door, and be distracted. Oh, I can't do the interview. Yes, I can. You're going to hear the sound, but that has nothing to do with this interview.
That reminds me of a story that you talked about. I think of the little girl who had to run the race at the time.
That was me.
That was right. That was you.
Yes.
That was so profound. That how many people can you tell that story?
Yeah, I was 5 years old, and remember, I grew up in a family of a single family. There were 8 of us. My mother was a single parent, and so a lot of the clothes that we were hand-me-downs. It was the shoelace race. I was only 5. This is my first race. I didn't know that you had to tie your shoe to be in a race. They just put me in the race. But, growing up with siblings that were older than me, I guess it was easier for them to just tie my shoes. And I went to the shoelace race. You put your shoe at the starting line, and then you walk back and you run to put on your shoes, you tie your shoes, and then you run back to the finish line. So I was dressed in my blue outfit, my bow was on. I was looking like every other kid. I wasn't this poor little kid anymore. And they said, on your mark, get set, go. And one by one, the children would run. And I ran as well. I was the littlest. I was tiny. I looked like I was 3. I was with these giants. So I ran as fast as I could, and everybody put on their sneakers, tied their sneakers, and run to the finish line. One by one, they left me. And I was the only one there. And that was the day that I connected with something. I discovered who I was. And they said, go, Cindy, go, because I think they were going to give me the consolation prize. I had tears coming down my eyes because I was a sensitive kid. But I knew that I may not know the rules today, but I'm going to know the rules tomorrow. So I stood there. The next race was going to start, and I demanded someone come and teach me how to tie my shoes, because I knew that life was a race and I need to know the rules. So my teacher came and she said she was going to tie it for me. I said, no, teach me how to do it. So she did it on one shoe. I did it on the other. And I learned how to tie my shoelace on the fly. And a lot of people give up and they're just at the starting line because they feel like, oh, I don't have what it takes. But life, you got to live it on the fly. Tomorrow is a day no one has a manual of. And so when you get to tomorrow, it's going to be new. And I learned that day that that's how a race is run. You run your own race. And so once I finished tying it, I took the laces out again. I retied my shoelace, and you should have heard the students, my mother, the teacher, they were clapping. I finished my race. I didn't win a first or second or third. I won my race. And that's how I came up with compete with yourself and win. This is your life, and only you can live it. And I ask people, whose life is it? They say mine. And who can live it? Me. Only you. Only I can live my life. You can't live it for me. And only you can live your life. And even if you don't have all the skills, all the talents, get started and grow wings as you learn to fly. That's how you do it.
Yes.
Jump off the cliff and grow wings on the incline.
I love that story. When I read it, two things stood out for me. One was that you had a teacher who did not brush you off or push you away.
Everybody wanted me to run.
Yes.
And I made up in my mind, if I run and I don't have the skill, I'm going to have to learn anyhow. I might as well learn now.
And she took the time, because I can remember times when teachers would really just go sit down, Tigner. You don't need to do that. And you're asking questions. And that is the time at that age, you're impressionable. You need someone to give you that empowerment, encouragement, to take time. And she took the time to show you how to tie the shoes.
And you know something, I grew up without a father, so I had no fear of authority figures. I'm not wired that way. And a lot of times what we think are handicaps are actually gifts. I always say to people, look, God gave me the gift of poverty. And that usually shocks them. What do you mean? Well, I discovered at 8, I was an entrepreneur. You know, I had to learn how to do things myself. It was so much poverty in the house. I wanted to travel. My mother never said no. She used to say, okay. The okay means you could travel if you make the money.
Right.
And I used to sell bottles. I used to find bottles. I would do anything in order to legitimately make money. And it would take me a whole year to save up. And at the end of that year, I would always go on a holiday. New York, England, Germany, South America. I traveled around the world. At 17, I made it to the Guinness Book of Records.
Wow.
By the time I was 18, I had already eaten at Buckingham Palace. I had eaten lunch with the Queen. By the time I was 21, I had already been to play pop-pot golf with Prince Andrew, already eaten dinner with Princess Margaret, her sister. I had already made Guinness Book of Records, already had awards. But this is this poor little girl from abject poverty.
That's amazing. So what did you make it? What was the your record for Guinness Book?
Being the largest number of siblings to be awarded the Duke of Edinburgh Award from the
Wow.
husband of the Queen of England. So
Wow.
there were four of us that won it. It was the only time in our nation, the only time in the world. So this is literally the world. There has never been before or never been after sisters making the same award. We made the Guinness Book of
That's
Records.
awesome. That's an awesome accomplishment.
Hmm.
You're close with your siblings?
Absolutely talk every day. Every single day.
That's beautiful. It's so important to have a close family and be able to communicate with one another. And that's really something that in our society in America, we found a lot of families that are, jaded, they're splintered. They don't want to talk, but
My mother did a great job. She was
she
very,
did.
like I said, we were very poor. We talk about storms. I remember, a hurricane came, the windows blew in, it rained in the house. And then the next morning, my mother had to figure out how she was going to secure these windows. So she learned how to be a contractor, an electrician. She learned, and we have so many abilities in us that
Yes.
is unrealized, and life is coming to as a mirror to show us how much giftings and greatness we have on the inside. And it usually comes through crises, divorce, betrayal, rejection. I always say rejection is redirection. It simply means that you have outgrown a relationship, a realm, or a job. When people start rejecting you, it simply means that they don't have capacity for your greatness and they don't have capacity for your next. Most people have capacity for your now, but not your next.
Oh, wow. What did you learn about yourself writing this book?
I probably would say that I learned more about me being an individual who is determined,
Yeah.
who will persevere through anything. And I'm unflinchingly, unapologetically powerful.
Oh yeah. Yes, I can hear it. You speak words that empower. And for any young person, if they would just stop and just listen to you, even through this recording, it will be it's impactful because there's nothing that you said, no matter what negative that could have been, you always still found a positive to turn a negative to a positive.
I had a blast in life. I love life so much. I don't even want to sleep sometimes because I don't want to miss 1 second of it. I'm squeezing every minute out of every
Every
hour and every second out of every minute. And I do it, my husband and I were talking last night and I said, look, I love life so much, the good, the bad, the ugly, the dark parts, the light parts. I love it so much, and a lot of us make knee-jerk decisions based on
yes.
temporary conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be careful of that. Feel your emotions, but don't become your emotions.
Yes.
Don't become it.
Yes. Wow. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for all your words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the book, Unstoppable, by Dr. Cindy Trimm. And before we go, can you let people know once again how they can get hold of this great book?
Unstoppable book. I have to keep looking. Unstoppable.book.online. And you can get the book for free. All you have to do is pay shipping and handling.
Wow. How can people follow you? Social media,
Cindy Trimm.
website?
And all of them are blue. I have the blue check.
You verified.
So if it's not verified, it ain't me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to the phenomenal Cindy Trimm, Unstoppable. Get your copy while they last. Thank you, Cindy, for your time. May God continue to bless you. May he continue to use you and empower you to continue to bless others through your words and your kindness. Until we talk again, make it a great day.
Thank you for having me, and God bless.